Mr. Cherno. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Cherno.
Yes, Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah, are you happy? How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. And you?
Oh yeah, I'm fine, and we are fine, and we are from Unit 3, and also the neighborhood are ready to follow your presentation, and we have recording this Zoom, so we can see this record in the YouTube after this schedule is finished. Oke, selamat datang saya ucapkan pada rekan-rekan dari Unit 3 maupun dari seluruh wilayah Indonesia, mungkin ada yang dari luar negeri. Welcome to this English webinar part 1 for all of you around the world. This is the first English webinar that holding by Students Association of Postgraduate School, University of Tribhuwana Tunggadewi. Okay, Mr. Cherno, I will start formally ya. Okay.
Alright.
Oke, kita mulai acaranya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good night, everybody. Good night, all the participants. Welcome to the English webinar part 1 with Student Association of Postgraduate School, University of Tribhuwana Tunggadewi, with the topic is monitoring and evaluation in agricultural economy. We have come and introduce you the speaker, Mr. Cherno Bah from the University of The Gambia. Selamat datang saya ucapkan kepada rekan-rekan dari seluruh wilayah Indonesia maupun yang ada di luar negeri. Selamat datang di acara English Webinar sesi pertama dengan topik monitoring dan evaluasi dalam bidang ekonomi pertanian. Kita menghadirkan Mr. Cherno Bah dari University of The Gambia. The first, I will explain to you the schedule. The first is opening, and the second is the explanation about the material from Mr. Cherno Bah, and the third is discussion. You may ask your question, and the speaker will answer your question, and the last is photo together. We can take photo together after the explain discussion, and we will close the schedule. Jadi acara pertama adalah pembukaan, yang kedua adalah penyampaian materi dari Mr. Cherno Bah. Kemudian sesi ketiga nanti ada diskusi dan tanya jawab. You may explain your question bahasa, and I will answer to English. Jadi teman-teman dapat bahasa Indonesia, jadi bantu untuk translate ke bahasa Inggris. Kemudian yang keempat nanti ada sesi tanya jawab juga. Jadi dilanjutkan dengan penutup. Sebelum penutup nanti ada foto bersama ya. Oke, we are opening this saying basmalah, bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and the next session is the explanation about the monitoring and evaluation in agricultural economy. But before Cherno explain the model, we about the curriculum vitae of the speaker. Okay, you can see on the slides. Okay, the speaker name is Mr. Cherno Bah. Is coming from Gambia, West Africa, one of the country in West Africa. He is an English teacher at the Gambia and also a researcher in the institution. And he is a student at University of The Gambia at that time. And right now, Mr. Cherno is a student at a postgraduate school, international class, University of Tribhuwana Tunggadewi. So you may see on the slide, yeah. This is the curriculum vitae of Mr. Cherno Bah. Jadi Mr. Cherno Bah ini adalah sahabat kita yang berasal dari Gambia, Afrika Barat. Sekarang beliau sedang menempuh S2 Magister Ekonomi Pertanian di Universitas Tribhuwana Tunggadewi. Beliau adalah seorang guru bahasa Inggris dan juga seorang peneliti dalam sebuah organisasi penelitian di Gambia secara singkatnya, dan beliau akan menyampaikan materi tentang monitoring dan evaluasi di agricultural economy. Okay, the next schedule is the explanation of the material and the time and place I will give to the speaker. Okay, Mr. Cherno, are you ready for the explanation?
Yes, I'm ready.
Oke, ya, acara selanjutnya adalah penyampaian materi oleh Mr. Cherno Bah. Ya, I will give 30 minutes ya. Saya akan memberi waktu 30 menit to the speaker to you, Mr. Cherno, to explain about your material. Jadi saya kasih waktu 30 menit untuk Mr. Cherno untuk menyampaikan materinya. During the explanation, please switch off your mic, but you can switch on your camera. But please switch off your microphone in order to save from the riots ya. Nah, jadi mohon untuk aktifkan kamera tidak apa-apa, tapi selama penjelasan materi mohon dimatikan mic. Okay, Mr. Cherno, time and place is yours. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Dito. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cherno Bah from the Gambia. I am a current student of postgraduate school in the University of Tribhuwana. During my days in the Gambia, I completed my high school, then joined the Gambia College under the School of Education. Upon completing that, I worked with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education as an English language and agricultural science teacher for a period of 5 years. Then I get enrolled into the University of the Gambia School of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. And during that time, I have also been working with one private school, a high school for that matter, where I taught agricultural science for a period of 1 year. Then later being promoted to the management, being in second of command of the management of the school, known as a vice principal. So from there, upon completing my university studies in the Gambia, I joined the National Agricultural Research Institution as a research officer, where I worked for a period of 1 year before proceeding to Indonesia for my postgraduate studies. All right, that was a brief introduction of myself. So today we are going to look at monitoring and evaluation, which is very important in agricultural economics aspect. Now, if you talk about monitoring and evaluation, it is important since at the project formulation level, but it is more important at the project implementation level. So we're going to look at the basic concept of MNE, that is monitoring and evaluation. We said the monitoring is a program or intervention that involves collection of routine data, okay, that helps to measure the progress towards achieving programs objective. It also helps stakeholders to make informed decisions regarding to the efficiency and the effective use of resources that have been implemented in such a project. So that's why in every project, for it to be successful and attain its desired goal, monitoring and evaluation is a key, and it is a continuous process. Next slide. Good. So if you look at monitoring and evaluation, we said monitoring and evaluation is sometimes referred to as a process of evaluation because it focuses on implementation process and asks very important questions. One of the questions it asks is how well has the program been implemented? How much does implementation varies from site to site? Because we believe that projects are intervention sites, not only in one particular aspect. Let's say, for example, if you want to implement a project in Malang, there are different locations in Malang. So you select sites that are suitable for the project. So those sites are also very important to see the variation. What are the differences in those sites where the project is being implemented? That is very key. And the other question that one may ask, did the program benefit the intended people? Because each program has a specific target group, that is targeted beneficiaries. Have they benefited from that particular program? At what cost? At what level? At what cost have they benefited from that particular program? That is also a very important question that monitoring and evaluation help to address. Next slide. So monitoring is an ongoing process. It is a continuous process. It doesn't only start at the beginning of the project and stop. It has to start at the beginning of the project and continue to the end of the project. So it requires collection of data at multiple points, not only at once, but at different times in the life cycle of the project, including at the beginning by providing what we call a baseline. Now, the baseline will help you to know the perception of the beneficiaries about that particular project that you are about to implement, so that at the end of the day, you will be able to establish at what level has these people been aware of a particular activity that you want to implement. Then, after the implementation, you will also know at what level have they achieved or at what level have they benefit. So that will be able to create what we call a benchmark or a yardstick in order to measure the impact, the outcome of that particular project when the project phases out. So monitoring and evaluation can be used to determine if activities need adjustment during the intervention to improve desired goal. Like for example, the phase cycle of the implementation of the project, then the monitor will help to guide the implementation and the stakeholders to see whether there are lapses. And if there are lapses, what can we do to adjust those lapses in order to improve the desired outcome? Because the desired outcome is always, the target. Those are the objectives, and you have the bigger goal in picture. That is going to be the impact in that particular community or in that particular environment that the project is being implemented. Next slide. Now, evaluation as another component help to measure how well the program activity have met expected objective, because each program has its own objective at the formulation level, what you want to achieve. So it will help you to understand, whether you have met those expected objective or not. So in order to make revisitation of your program and see where need to be addressed, what are the problems, and what strategies can be put in place in order to address those problems in order to meet the required or the desired outcomes. So there are differences in the outcome of interest between having the project and not having the project. Okay, so that is what we call the impact. At the end of the day, if you check and assess that particular project, then you may want to ask yourself that particular question, which is, was the project necessary or was the project not necessary? But that can be only answered after the impact of the project. Let's say the project phases out 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, then you can measure the impact, the benefit of that particular project. Then you will know whether the project was necessary or not. So evaluation will help you to do that. Okay, so measuring those outcomes is also known as what we call impact evaluation. Next, please. Next.
Okay, sir, wait a minute. There is something problem. Okay, Mr. Cherno, wait for a minute.
Okay, okay. All right, it's okay. So evaluation is key in this aspect of the project because evaluation helps you to collect data from the starting point of the program and at the end of the program, rather than repeating intervals during the program implementation. Okay, so a control which also require a control group of individuals in order to measure whether the changes in the outcome can be attributed to the program. Because if the individuals that you are going to deal with are not grouped, then at the end of the day, due to certain influence of other external factors that are not the project, then you will not be able to attribute whether the changes in those individuals is as a result of that particular program or project being implemented. So it is very important to control that particular group of individuals that we call the beneficiaries in that particular project. So evaluation is a well-planned study. Okay, it's a well-planned study design. It has to be designed to guide, to help to guide the project. You know, what are the dons and what are the undons of that particular project, so that you will be able to have a picture. Always give you sense of direction, whether you are moving as expected or not, so that you can always make adjustments. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Good. So now, what is MNE plan? We know a plan is a schedule that gives sense of direction. So an MNE is a living document that describes how the whole MNE system works, what the project aims to achieve, the goals of the project, the objective of the project, intervention areas, and expected results of the project. It also involves the role of MNE in that particular project, the monitoring and evaluation officers, their role in that particular project. It requires what we call data collection, indicators, method of data collection, data analysis, data flow, use of information, required resources, transparency, and accountability. So those are very key components in that particular plan because it will help give you a pictorial view of what is expected and what is not, especially when it comes to the resources. Because after developing this MNE plan, it will help you to know whether the required resources to implement that particular project is available or not. Because projects or programs without an MNE plan will hinder your progress. Because at the end of the day, you may go up to a certain point, you come to realize that, oh, I started this project, but I didn't have the required resources. So you are being stagnant in that particular project. So you cannot move to achieve your desired goal. At the end of the day, it leads to a project failure or a program failure. Next slide, please. So we have what we call the roles of MNE plan. The roles that MNE plan play in the particular MNE system. One, it gives focus to MNE unit. Okay, it gives focus to MNE unit. Then two, it makes the MNE implementation being standardized. Dito, you are one slide ahead. So it provides purpose and vision for a successful MNE implementation. It also provides information that enable tracing the project progress, to trace at what level have the project progress. Is it at 50% level? Is it at 75%? Or is it at 100? Or is it at a failure? So it will always help to give you that clue, that information. An MNE unit or an MNE plan should be a resource mobilization tool, right? With the well-developed MNE, you can use that to sell it outside so that people can invest. Donors can come in play because they have already seen, you know, the pictorial view of that particular project, the document of the project. So it will help. Okay, it is also a capacity building tool in a sense that it will enable to clearly picture out who are the people to be trained, at what level are they to be trained, and at what component are they to be trained on. So it also serves as an institutional memory because the data will be within the institution. So always people will come, yo, that particular project was implemented by that particular institution. Let's say, for example, the project was implemented by Unitary, or the project was implemented by Islamic State University. So it gives that memorial, picture of that particular institution. It promotes ownership and participation among stakeholders. Because of the stakeholders of this project are many. You have the implementators. Those are at the office level, like the MNE officers, the project coordinator, the staff, the project stars. You have the beneficiaries. If it is in the case of farming, the farmers that you target, they are part of the project. You have other stakeholders like the donors. They are also part of the project. So always the MNE plan will help them see themselves as they are part of the project. This belongs to us. So we will do our utmost best to see that it succeeds. So always they will have the zeal. The zeal that you have when something belongs to you, or when a responsibility is laid on you, you always want to prove people that you can do it. So the role of an MNE help to do that, help to bring that participatory approach between the project stakeholders at different levels. Next slide, please. Now you have what we call the components of MNE. Okay, so these are the various components. In a nutshell, they are also known as the context of an MNE plan. One, we have the introduction. Two, we have the project description. Three, we have the indicators. Four, we have the stakeholders. Five, data collection. Six, data quality audit. Seven, monitoring plan. Eight, evaluation plan. Nine, data analysis. 10, data dissemination. Then we have 11, transparency and accountability. Then the last but not the least, we have costed work plan. So this summarized together makes what we call the monitoring and evaluation plan. Next slide, please. So we're going to look at them one after the other. Now, if you talk about the introduction, every project has what we call a project mission. What is the mission of the project? What is the vision? What do they want to achieve at the end of the project? What is the value? What are the values of those projects? So in most cases, projects, especially into agriculture, the minimum number of years that they last is 5 years in order to achieve what is intended or what is designed. Okay, so you also have the overview of the MNE in the project, its purpose and its relevance. Every project has a purpose, and every project must be relevant to the beneficiaries. Okay, brief history of the development of MNE plan. How the MNE plan was developed, that brief history is also important. Okay? Then we also have what we call the resources you require in setting up an effective MNE system. That is monitoring and evaluation system, an effective one, the resources that you require. Maybe you need a database system. If you are to go in for a database system, you need internet connectivity, you need number of laptops, other gadgets like tablets, mobile phone, etc. And you need, data manager staffs that are well trained in order to execute that function. Next slide, please. Then you have the description of the project. Okay, the project problem statement. Specific issues that the project want to address in that particular community. Let's say, for example, there is scarcity of water, okay, or less quality seeds. So in a particular community that you want to address, that's a specific problem that the project want to address in that particular community. Now you have the goal of the project. The goal is the bigger picture, the broader statement about the desire of that particular project or the outcomes. Let's say, for example, the goal of that particular project is to improve the livelihood of farmers in a particular community. Right? So that's the goal. But within that goal, you have specific. How are you going to improve the livelihood of cities, providing them with markets? Those are specific objectives that you can have with it. Now, an objective has to be desired, specific, and measurable outcome. In a nutshell, we said an objective has to be SMART. SMART simply means it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be attainable, it has to be realistic, and finally, it has to be time-bound. It has to be within a time frame. Then you have the interventions, the solutions to those problems that you already identify in the first part, that is the problem statement. The geographic scope, we all know what geographic scope means, the locations, right? The targeted population, what population are you targeting? Are you targeting farmers? Are you targeting women gardeners only? Are you targeting youths? Okay, and the duration of the project is also important. Is it going to be 5 years? Is it going to be 2 years? Is it going to be 3 years? So that's the life cycle of that particular project. Then you have the project framework. Under that, you have what we call the contextual, we have the logical, and the resource or the theory of change. Next slide, please. Good. Under the contextual framework, we have what we call graphical representation of factors that influence the problem of interest and in their relationship. Now, in this graphical representation, you can use pie charts, you can use pie chart, you can use histograph, frequency distribution tables, etc., in order to represent the problem of interest in that particular relationship, because it also gives that pictorial view. Okay, then we have the logical framework. It links the component of the project goal and objective, right? The project goals and the objective. I guess by now you will understand what I mean by project goals and objective, to link their components together. Okay, so it is a result framework will link the project activities. There are different types of project activities, different types of activities within the same projects, right? Like for example, provision of seeds, preparation of nursery beds, conducting focus group discussion, conducting baseline studies. So those are all activities of the projects. So it links the project results always to the activities. Theory of change, missing middles, right? Or backward mapping. Okay, what is missing? Or you backward map, you check the history related to that particular project, the events that occurred before that particular project will also help and give a guide of what you are doing. Next slide, please. Good. Now we have the stakeholders analysis. Now in the stakeholders analysis, identify stakeholders to work with, the people that we are going to work with. As I said, the beneficiaries. Who are they? Maybe the age, you can say farmers at the age of 20 to 35. Those are the people you identify, So you group them. You can group them based on maybe the crops that they grow, or maybe based on the farming system that they practice, whether they go for, crop production or animal production. So grouping them because of they have to establish those similarities. People who are involved into the same thing, they can be always able to interact and discuss. So you involve them. Okay, don't leave them behind. Involve them at what level, any level of the project implementation, you have to involve them. And the fourth one, you have to communicate to them. You communicate, because communication is key in the project implementation. Why should you do this? Why should you do all these three above? One, to earn support of key players in the project area of operation. Because if there are people that you are dealing with in the project, they may not have the scientific knowledge as the project experts, but they have what we call the indigenous knowledge. They have the experience at the farm level. They have the experience at the weather pertaining to that particular environment. They have experience about the disease and pests that may influence the production of that particular, they have that indigenous knowledge in them. So involve them, they will be able to help. They will be able to contribute their quota. That will help the project to attain its desired goal. To communicate M&E plan to all stakeholders in early stage of the project. What is the M&E plan? At what time are they going to collect data? At what time are they going for monitoring? At what time are they going for supervision? So these are all important. You need to communicate to them so that they can be in picture. They will also be ready for it. Now you help to address conflicts, because obviously conflicts might occur either between the project staffs or the project staffs and some of the stakeholders, or within the beneficiaries themselves, or at the selection process of the beneficiaries, or at all these stages, there could be conflict. But how to address those conflicts is very important. So you help them to address those conflicts or issues at the early on. Okay, at the beginning, don't allow issues to boil up to a certain level that it may create a bigger problem than you want to come and address. No, address it at the beginning. When you sense a problem is about to occur, do your level best to find the root cause of that particular problem, then you address it. That will help to smoothen the monitoring and evaluation and the entire process of that particular project. Next slide, please. Now, you have an example of a stakeholders analysis. Now let's look at the horizontal column on top. We have the audience, we have audience background, that is their knowledge and experience. We have audience demographic characteristics, like for example, their age, what sex are they, male or female, you know, what type, where do they come from, which ethnic groups, those are all important, okay? What information is required, okay? Audience need and their interest, what they need and what is their interest, why is the information required, okay? When is the information required, how information will be communicated, and how will they be involved. Now let's look at this second column. We realize that we have what we call external audience. This is an example. Those audience are external audience. For example, okay, let's beneficiaries, small scale farmers, they are the beneficiaries, they are at the same time the external audience. Now under the knowledge and background about the farming of mangoes, you want to know their knowledge and background, because for example, this project is implemented in mango area. Your knowledge background about farming of mangoes. You go to the audience demographic characteristic, male, female, and look at the age, at least 35 to 60 years old. Those are the people that we are targeting. Okay, what information do they require from you? You know, as the expert, they require farming tips, right? Farming advices. Okay, why is the information required? It gives the farmers investment, and it also gives them market analysis view. So when do you do this? You do this quarterly. Okay, quarterly, maybe every 3 months. Okay, how will the information be communicated? You can communicate this information through workshops, like organizing those beneficiaries, you know, organize a workshop for them in a form of training. Then you call participants or stakeholders to come and share those informations with the farmers. Those are the beneficiaries. Or you can use mobile communication, send them a mobile message. Okay, or you take your phone, you call them, explain to them. Okay, how will it be how will they be involved? Okay, the generation of data in a registration, like you have a data registration set, you get all their informations in that data registration. Now the second audience is going to be the internal audience. Now the internal audience are the project staffs. Okay, what knowledge do they have? The project management, MNE Plan, that's the knowledge that they have. At what age? 25 to 50, those are the staffs that should work in that particular project. Okay, what information is required? They require crop production rate and its profitability. Like the production, for example, of mango, the rate of production, how is it? Is it increasing at an increasing state, or it is increasing at a decreasing rate? And the profitability, how profitable is mango production to those farmers? They need those knowledge. Okay, they advise farmers and look for resources. Look for resources, like they can sell it to donors and look for resources in order to help those farmers. You can do this monthly. You have a monthly meeting with your project staffs. And how can the information be communicated? You can communicate it through newsletters, workshops, or emails. Then how will they be involved? They can be involved through data collection and analysis processes. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, good. So now we have the indicators. We said point to the direction of the project change. They can be positive, they can be neutral or negative. Now, one of the importance of indicators is to reduce the amount of data down to its simplest forms. Okay, data can be broad, but you can now reduce it down to its simplest forms. Like, for example, numbers, okay, percentages, rates, and ratios. Like, for example, you want to use, the percentage of women, okay, using contraceptive in this modern generation. So the percentage will help you to establish that number. We have what we call the quality and the qualitative and the quantitative. If you talk about the quantitative, it deals with numbers, that's figures. But now if you talk about the qualitative, it deals with values, right? It deals with values. Now you have specific and measurable information. The information in the indicators should be specific and they should be measurable. Source required data and the population being measured. Okay, the required data is important, and the population that is also being measured is important as well. So we said an indication must be SMART. I guess by now you know what we mean by SMART. It simply means what? It should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Okay, has a baseline, okay? Good, a target, timeliness, and unit of measurement and matrix, because you have to have this constant unit of measurement. You cannot go the first, let's say, monitoring, you collect data on a matrix that doesn't match with the second. So it will be difficult to align them. It will be difficult to analyze such a data, and it will be difficult to make a meaningful interpretation from such a data. So these are very important aspects. Next, please. Good. Now we have the attributes of high quality indicators. Okay, high quality indicators, they have these attributes, or they have these characteristics. One of the characteristics is validity. Okay, an indicator should be measured what it is intended to measure. Every indicator, you cannot use an indicator to measure something that is not intended to measure, but you use it to measure what it is intended to measure. Just like if you want to measure water into kilograms, you know that water kilograms is not intended to measure water, but it's intended to measure cereals, right? Water, you can measure it into liters. So that's one aspect. Then you have the reliability, to the extent to which the indicator produces the same results by repeated measurement of the same phenomenon, either by the same or different evaluators. Let's, for example, as I said, whether even it is I who go to the field, I should come with the same data when details goes to the field, because we should use same unit of measurement and same measuring tool in order to be able to establish that particular data. That is means now that data is reliable. But if I go to the field, the measurement that I get, it doesn't tally with the one detail will get at the field, then that particular data is not reliable. That data might be biased. Okay, so biasness can be caused by unclear indicators. When the indicator is not clear, you don't know what you are measuring, right? Let's say, for example, population of women. Population of women, you don't know what category of women, right? Whether the young are part of them, the old age are part of them, because age limit or age gap is not given. So that's not a clear indicator. Two, the faulty instrument proceeding unreliable measurement, right? Faulty instrument, an instrument that is not good. You take it to the field, it will not give you an accurate data. Untrained data collectors. Some of the data collectors, you did not train them. They didn't understand the questions very well. Most of the cases, these questions are in international languages. But when you go down to the community, probably those farmers cannot speak those international languages. They can speak, local languages. Maybe in the case of Indonesia, it might not be a very big problem because everybody uses Bahasa even at the community level. But I was made to understand that there are even the normal Bahasa that is being used to communicate, there are people that use other languages or deeper one, like the Japanese, etc. So you don't understand the context as a data collector very well. You go to the field, you may misinterpret the questions. And if you misinterpret the questions, what will happen? At the end of the day, you are going to have wrong data. That's why it is also very key to train your data collectors. Next. Good. Now we are looking at this. This is an indicators tool. For example, you have the indicator. The indicator is percentage of women, okay, of reproductive age who are using contraceptive method. That's the indicator. Look at the percentage of women using this. Now, definition. The definition is how are we going to get that percentage? We have in a percentage, we have the numerator and we have the denominator. In mathematics, we all know that it's a basic knowledge. Now, number of women of the reproductive age using contraceptive method divided by the number of women of the reproductive age. That will give the percentage of women using contraceptive method in the reproductive age. Now, the purpose of that particular indication is to assess the modern contraceptive use among women of reproductive age. The use of modern contraceptive results to control fertility. Now, baseline, maybe a previous studies was conducted, you realize that the number of women who use it, they are at 58%. Now your target at your project level, what are you targeting? You are targeting 65, 68%. So it means you are targeting 10% increase. So that's what you are targeting, but you have a baseline, right? Now, data collection through public, you can use that through what? Public health survey, a reproductive public health survey. A demographic or health survey can help. You collaborate with the Ministry of Health. Okay, then a household survey on a reproductive age can be the tool that can be used. Now, frequency, at what time are you going to get this? You can get this data every 4 years. You can go at interval of every 4 years. Like, for example, in my country, census is being conducted every 10 years. So you can also conduct this every 4 years or every 3 years to know the rate at which it is increasing or decreasing. People who are responsible, they are the program officers, the research team, and the evaluation consultants. You can hire consultants outside. There are firms. I don't know whether you have them in Indonesia, but in Gambia, you have firms that are private firms, but they are only responsible for consultations. They work with NGOs, they work with government if government wants some relevant data, or NGOs want some relevant data, because they are very good at that. So they will be giving it as a form of contract. You can do that. Reporting, okay? The data will be collected through a survey and analyzed to provide required information. Then you have the data quality. All data collection team will attend a 1-week training course, because it's important. They need to know what they are going to do and how they are going to do it. Okay, to complete the survey questionnaires, verify some of the survey questionnaires, which question is correct, which question is wrong. So in order to edit all the checklists and go with the accurate question and let it be uniform, let them not go on to until at the field they start facing some, disunity among the questions, or they tend to misinterpret the questions differently. So that's very important to verify the accuracy of the data. That's why it is also important to have a supervisor who will go and verify. You can verify maybe through a phone call to check whether the data that was submitted is accurate or not. If you do it for 5 beneficiaries, then all of them, the data that was submitted is accurate, then you can conclude all the data is accurate. Or maybe only 5, the data is wrong, then you as the supervisor, you can conclude that the data is wrong, then you disregard the data and you repeat the entire process, which may be costly. So that's why it is important to train those particular data collectors. Next slide.
Okay, Mr. Serno, the time is 10 minutes again.
Okay, okay. All right.
Okay.
Good. Then you have the data collection tools, methods, okay, and tools. You decide on the data collection method and tools. Then the data source, it can be at multiple data source. Then you decide the frequency of collecting these data, every 1 month, every 2 months, or every 3 months. Proceed. That's the next. Good. Now you have data collection methods. It could be quantitative or it could be qualitative. Now the quantitative, we use numbers. Then you can have this data through interview, face-to-face interview, telephone interview, or computer-assisted personal interview. Then you can also have what we call questionnaires. You can use a mail, you can use a web-based, like a website-based, you can use a checklist to get this data. Then you have the quality method, non-numerical. Okay, they are usually in descriptive form. How can you get the data? Through an in-depth interview or observation method, document reviewing, or focus group discussion. These are all methods that are possible to use. Next, please. Then we have what we call the data source. We all know the data source can be either primary or secondary data source. How can you obtain primary data source? Through routine information system. Okay, you can go for management systems like budget information, human resources, etc. You can conduct surveys, evaluations. You can use a surveillance in the case of diseases prevalence. Okay, then secondary data, you can use books, newspapers, published journals, articles, data archives, okay, or database systems. Like for example, in Indonesia, you can use your database system that is being always available. You can access it. So the choice of primary data and secondary data depends on the nature, the scope, area, aim, and objective of your work. To use primary data or secondary data. Next. So this is an example of a data collection plan. You have the information to be collected. Like for example, training of farmers, training of agricultural extension workers. You have data collection methods, you have the indicators, data source, timing, and the person responsible. Let's look at one of it. Like for example, training of farmers. You have program and specific M&E tools, number of trained farmers to be held. That's an indicator. Training, where are you going to get the data from? Training attendance list. Okay, timing, maybe every 6 months. and who is responsible is going to be the project manager. Slide, please. Good. Now, 6, you have the data quality plan. You have the guide. It helps to guide the MNE to produce data that is valid and reliable. Okay. It also helps to identify a benchmark for quality data, outline the role and responsibility of parties responsible for data collection. It contains the routine quality of assessment. So it also helps to outline data cleaning and validation process before reports are submitted. It's very important. Next slide, please. Good. So we have the data quality attributes. And a data quality attribute, a data should be, completeness. It should be consistent. Okay. It should maintain integrity. It should be accurate. A data should be reliable, and data should be valid, and it should be timeline. Next slide, please. Good. So you have a data quality plan example. You have a number of indicators, data quality issues. Okay. Like for example, number of indicators. One, you have number of individual trained. Okay. So you have the data quality issue, incomplete or missing data. Example, participant registration with initials, right? Like for example, the names are very similar. You can skip some name. Poor data entry, the data was entered poorly. There was a delay in the data submission. So that can be a data quality issue. Actions to be taken to address this limitation. Capacity building of data clerks. Okay. Develop and implement a strict reporting structure and schedules. Okay, next slide. So the other one is another similar example. Then you have the monitoring plan. The monitoring plan helps describe what will be monitored and how. Okay, a good monitoring plan should be very simple, based on existing monitoring mechanisms. Okay, detailed source of information. It should give you all the required information that you need. Okay, collect as much information as possible. Okay, as intended by the program team. Then frequency collection of data. Maybe you choose that 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. Okay, so you can be able to monitor the progress of that particular activity. Next. Then you have, you recall a data monitoring plan example. Okay, this is an example. I believe if the material is being shared, you can go through that because of, we have limited time. But I will just take one, then you can read the rest if the material is being shared. Then we have operational and concerns. We have the indicator, monitoring tool, data source, and updated frequency. Let's assume the operation is going to be, or the activity is capacity building. The indicator, number of tutors trained, how many people are trained. Okay, the monitoring tool, you use the training log, okay, or the attendance of the training. Performance monitoring plan can help. Okay, where are you going to get the data? Budget sheet, from the budget sheet, because it was all planned. At the work plan, how are they going to execute their work? And digital tools. When can you do that? You can do that quarterly, maybe every 2-3 months. You can do that in a year. Next slide, please. How you have what we call the evaluation plan. Okay, plan for evaluation at the baseline. Okay, during the implementation and after the implementation. That means at the beginning, during the implementation, and after the implementation. You describe the research design. What are the designs? Okay, is it going to be an experimental design? Is it going to be a survey? If it is an experiment, what type of experiment? Those are all important. Then you describe the methodology of measuring the relevance, effectiveness, efficiency, and impact or sustainability of the project. This methodology is very important too. Then you explain the implementation plan. How are you going to implement? How are you going to execute the responsibility of stakeholders, both internal stakeholders and external stakeholders? Then you also outline the protocol to use for the impact of evaluation or specific research studies. Next slide. So this is also an example of an evaluation plan that contain all the desired columns. Like for example, what are we going to evaluate? Health workers training, management and relevance of the training. Okay, evaluation question. Did the curriculum address the identified gap? Okay, what are the process that is being involved? Okay, context analysis. You analyze the context of that particular curriculum. evaluation activities, review curriculum versus the identify gaps, what you need to address, implementation dates, July 2019 to June 2020, you have a target. The responsible one is the M&E officer, and what is going to be the cost of that particular training. Then you have what we call $20,000. That's going to be, this is just an example so that you will understand how to formulate and or how to go about this. Next slide, please. Good. 9, we have what we call data analysis plan. This helps describe how, whom, and how often the project will conduct data analysis to provide credible or required information for decision making, because the data will help guide you to make an informed decision that at the end of the day will guide stakeholders and all those government agencies that are involved in the implementation, okay, or formulation of policies. Who will be involved in the analysis? The type of people that will be involved. What type of analysis are you going to use? Are you going to use graphical, statistical tests, etc.? Okay, data to be analyzed, what form of the data will be analyzed, and the tool to be used for analysis. Example, you have different software. You can use Excel software, you can use SPSS, etc. So it is important. Next. So this is an example of data analysis tool where you have the indicator, percentage of use, receiving condom use, message through the media, data source, daily activity or registration. Then you have data analyzing method. You analyze the data in percentages. You have analysis or statistical tool that you are going to use. You use Excel. Frequency of analysis, and that's going to be monthly basis. And who is going to be responsible? The M&E supervisor. Next slide, please. Then you have what we call data dissemination and information use. Okay, it's very key. It is very important in M&E. Potential means for increasing knowledge and providing the outcomes to the existing picture projects. Okay, you communicate. Okay, you disseminate the information so that people will know what the project has achieved. And if other projects are to come in similar view, they will also have an idea what the previous project has achieved and what they are going to do. Okay, plan for disseminating information among internal and external stakeholders. Design the data users, or you define, how people who are going to use the data needs for each of the users, because of some of the users, like those at the policy level, the data they will require, and those at implementation level, the data they will require are quite different, and the data the donor will require is also quite different. Dissemination method. What methods of dissemination are you going to use? Are you going to use emails? Are you going to use WhatsApp? Are you going to, what form of dissemination? Or radio programs, television programs, and etc. Information utilization. How many people are going to utilize that information? Or how are they going to utilize that particular information we share? It's important. Next slide, please. Good. So this is an example of data dissemination and information plan, which you can go through. Let's say, example, number of individuals who are trained. How can this be used? Gauge coverage or scope, stakeholders that are involved, the donors, dissemination mechanism, program meetings, okay, format, program reports, process, verify quality, data quality, then timeliness, then quarterly, right? You can use that quarterly. So that's an example. So you can go through the rest when you have time. Next slide, please. Good. So 11, we have transparency and accountability. Monitoring lead to increase transparency and high quality data, which in turn result to more effective use of data. Transparency is very important. The people that you are working with, they need to know every stage of what is happening. You cannot hide some of the activities from them, or you hide the budget from them. At the end of the day, that will create chaos. People will not understand each other. There will be no mutual understanding. Every time there will be side talks, and that will hinder the progress of the project. Ethics, we all know what are ethics. Good conducts, professional conducts are very important. High professional standard. When executing this project, make sure you execute it with high professional standard. Prevent cheating and data cooking. You go to the field to collect data. Instead of doing what is expected of you, you cook the data. If you cook the data, it is going to be very difficult to analyze, and it will mislead the entire population. So cheating also is not accepted. So we have to try always to avoid that as data collectors and numerators. Next slide, please. Then you have the costing of the M&E. That means you need to cost every activity, the amount involved in that particular activity. Then you have costed work plan, the work plan. Then you cost it. This activity, yeah, we are going to distribute seeds to farmers. How much is it going to cost? How much will be the transport fare? How much is going to be this and that mode of transport? You cost it. It's important. Then you have what we call a well layout budget. The budget should capture each and every activity with the cost that is being involved. So I believe that will bring us to the end of this presentation. So we have the monitoring and evaluation framework, or a template that you can look at when you have time, because the organizer has already given me a time limit, and I believe by now I have gone beyond that time. So that will bring us to the end of the presentation. Thank you. Tito, next slide.
Okay, Mr. Cherno, into presentation, I will give you 5 minutes again, or we continue to the discussion based on depend on you.
Yeah, okay. So I can just explain this part, the MNE Plan template. You can go to the slide, the last slide.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
The last slide, okay.
Yeah, that one.
Or okay, this is slide. Okay.
Second to last slide. Good. So you look at the MNE Plan template. Okay, this is a framework. No, the other one, the one upper. Good. Yeah. So let's look at this. We have the goal of the project, you have the outcome of the project, and you have the output. Then you can have the activity. So from the activity to the output, then the outcome, then the goal. As I said, the goal is the bigger picture, the bigger statement that the project want to achieve. Okay. Then you have the indicator, percentage of grade 6 primary students continuing to senior school. That's going to be the indicator. Percentage of grade 6 primary students continuing to senior school. Now, definition, how are you going to calculate this indicator? You said what? Number of students who start the first day of grade 7 divided by the total number of students of grade 6 in the previous year, multiplied by 100. That will give you the percentage. Okay, so the indicator is very precise and it is measurable. It will give you the percentage of that particular students. Now, baseline, what is the current value? The current value of the percentage of students in grade 7 is what? 50. And what is the project targeting? The project wants to target at least 90 students from grade 6 to proceed to grade 7. But we conduct a baseline. We know that the current value is 50 students from grade 6. Those are the ones that proceed to grade 7. So the remaining other 40 students that do not make it up to that particular place. Now, this is the gap. This is the gap that the project wants to fix. The project wants to achieve another extra 40%. That's its target. So then that will give you the 90% as target. Data source, where can you get the data from? We said from primary and high school enrollment records, which you can get from the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education should be able to provide the primary and high school enrollment record. And from there, you will be able to make the analysis of this data. Then frequency, how are you going to collect it? Because we know that promotion to another class is based on a year. We call it an academic year. So obviously you are going to use it annually. Okay. The frequency of that data is going to be on annual basis, not on quarterly basis, because promotion is based on a year. Then who is responsible? The project manager, of course, is responsible for making sure that this indicator is being attained and the data is being collected. Okay. Reporting. To who are you going to report? To the funders, the donors of that project. It could be a UN project, it could be a World Bank project, or it could be a government project, or it could be another private entity, right? That wants to help to address that particular problem. So you are reporting to those people. So you write your monitoring and evaluation report and report to those people. Okay. Presentation. At what level should you do presentation? Because data is being collected on a yearly basis. So your presentation should be also on yearly report. Every year after enrollment is being done, collect data, analyze that data, draft your monitoring and evaluation report, then you go and report to project coordinators and donors of that particular project. So I believe that is what brought us to the end of this presentation. So I thank you very much for your kind attention. So we will have discussion following, maybe questions, comments, and contribution, which I believe the moderator will moderate. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much to Mr. Cherno Bah for the honorable presentations. Now, the session of discuss and question, you may explain your question in English and also Bahasa, but before that, I will explain about the point of view from the presentation. The first is the monitoring is the continued process in every policy. So, and evaluation is how well the program is known as impact and impact evaluation. Dan ada beberapa langkah dalam monitoring dan evaluasi. Yang pertama adalah memperkenalkan proyek kita, tujuannya apa, misi-misinya apa. Kedua adalah mengenalkan target. Yang ketiga adalah menganalisis pekerjaan dan juga menganalisis kekuatan tim. Keempat adalah membuat indikator. Yang kelima adalah mengumpulkan data baik sekunder dan primer, dan kemudian menentukan metode penelitian, itu adalah yang penting. Yang enam adalah menentukan quality control yang kita lakukan, apa yang kita capai. Dan ketujuh adalah menentukan hasil penelitian dari proyek yang dilakukan. Yang terakhir adalah melaporkan hasil penelitian dan mempresentasikan kepada semua orang. Okay, Mr. Cherno, thank you. Now is session of discussion and asking. Saya berikan waktu bagi teman-teman yang ingin bertanya. If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand. Yang mau bertanya silakan untuk mengatakan in bahasa and also English problem. Jadi sampaikan pertanyaan kepada pemateri dalam bahasa, saya akan bantu translate, dan boleh juga bagus kalau langsung dalam bahasa. Okay, you can also sending question directly in English. Okay, this is the session of discussion. I will give you the occasion for asking. You can raise your hand. Okay. Okay, Mr. Cherno, there is a question in chat layer from Daniel Simo. Okay, Mr. Cherno.
I'm listening.
Okay, yeah. Okay, my name is Daniel Simo. I want to ask, how is the evaluation of agriculture in the Cherno's place or in Gambia? Is the same as Indonesia, which continues to decline every year? What are the reasons if it declines? What is the government doing in your area? Thank you. Okay, you may see on the chat if you want to ask directly, and you can answer directly, Mr. Cherno. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that wonderful question. As far as agriculture is being concerned, in my country, the evaluation, I believe it is same as Indonesia, if it is not worse than Indonesia, because the level of agricultural production has been decreasing over the years, and it is decreasing drastically. These factors could be attributed to one, climate change has played a major impact in the Gambia, because we used to experience 5 to 6 months of rainfall, but now that has reduced to only 4 or 3 months of rainfall, and the rain is not evenly distributed. That do affect crops, and one of it is because Gambia is highly dependent on rainfall. It doesn't, make best use of irrigation facilities. It is being used at a very, very, very low rate. So that's one. And two is because the attributes, the general attributes, or the stigma or the stereotype of being labeled as poor, farmers are poor. So because of that, people don't want to venture into agriculture. So most of the youth prefer blue-collar jobs or to travel overseas, to make money than to stay in the rural community to farm. That's another problem because of there is no labor in the farming production. And the third one is because of agriculture being in a subsistence form. It is not fully mechanized, so it is drudgery and very tedious that it doesn't encourage youth to go and venture into agricultural production. Now, when it comes to government, the role that they are playing is very minimal anyway, because what happened is they are not encouraging the private sector to go into agriculture. So government come up with projects at certain intervention areas in order to provide seeds, train farmers and provide some mechanic aspects for farmers, which we believe is well coordinated and taken care of, will help to improve the level of production and the agricultural fraternity as a whole. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you so much for the explanation, Mr. Kemo. It was a good question. Okay. So the second question is coming from a student that cannot mention name. maybe he is shy, but I can the question. Is, how can we evaluate project from agriculture in Indonesia, because Indonesia is full of putting rice. In your opinion, how can we evaluate the agriculture of rice in Indonesia based on your opinion? It's the question from a student cannot mention the name. Okay, Mr. Serbo, you may answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyway, I don't know who asked that question as the name is not being mentioned, but notwithstanding, looking at Indonesia, it is very similar to Gambia when it comes to rice consumption. They consume rice a lot. I have seen in Indonesia, breakfast is rice, lunch is rice, and even dinner. Many people prefer to take rice. And Indonesians will tell you, if you eat all eating you do without eating rice, still you do not eat. So that shows how higher the demand for rice is. Now, looking at the production of rice, I may not be in a better position to give the pictorial view of Indonesian rice production, but based on the literature that I have read, I have come in contact with, and some people that I have discussed with, I was made to understand that Indonesia doesn't produce enough of rice that is going to feed itself. So it do import rice from other Asian countries and even European countries in order to supplement their production to increase consumption rate of rice. So Indonesia is blessed naturally because I have seen in areas like Malang, I can say, they have almost 8 to 9 months of rainfall. So you can have 3 or 4 cultivations of rice, right? So that is a potential that Indonesia has. And it is similar to Gambia. It's like the youth of Indonesia also prefer blue collar jobs and white collar jobs than going to the farm and be farmers or invest into agriculture. So I believe in order to address that problem, what you need to evaluate, because of the resources are already available, is the labor, and encourage the private sector to venture into agricultural production, especially rice. And government can come up with rice production projects, right, where they can have government farms, okay, which will be able to produce the required rice that is being needed by Indonesians in order to ban importation or at least reduce the rate of importation of rice in Indonesia. Thank you very much. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Serno, and thank you so much for the student that cannot mention the name. I hope you are very blessed for the God for you. Okay, the third question I will give to Mr. Fidel da Costa. Thanks for raise your hand, and you can turn off your hand. And please sending your questions to the speaker.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. Your presentation is very interesting. So my question is, when in any project, automatically have, just now you explained it, have a target. When in any project, the outcome will not the same with the target that they in the project done. What can we do to solve it?
Yeah, thank you very much,
Maybe
Fidel. Are you done with your question?
what mechanism or what solution we can use to solve the problem that happen in any project, that the project is go on, but the outcome is not be finished on time, or the result is not be the same on the target. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Fidel, for that wonderful question. So yeah, you are right. Most of the cases, all projects have targets, and in some cases, you realize that the target does not match with the outcome. The outcome is far lesser than the target. So in order to avoid that, that's why you should have what we call a quarterly monitoring and evaluation plan at every level of the project. Let's say in a period of every 3 months, you should go to the project intervention sites and try to monitor what is the progress that is being made and the project target. Okay, what are some of the problems and how can those problems be fixed? So now when you come back as a monitoring and evaluation officer, you write report, involve stakeholders and involve donors. Explain, yeah, this is a problem that we see at the field or at the implementation site, and this problem has to be fixed. If it is required, maybe in the case of funding, then you can talk to the donors, they can increase the fund. Let's say, for example, is an agricultural project, you realize that, the pests and diseases maybe are affecting the project. So obviously you can, link a pest and disease unit experts, whereby they can be also given some incentives to go and tackle that particular problem. That's why always monitoring and evaluation is very important. So that will help you to revisit some of the activities, some of the steps that you have already taken, and you realize that they are not inclined, they are not improving your project, you are not giving your desired outcome. So those might be the problem, so you rectify them. Just like, for example, if you write an assignment, before you submit, you go back to the assignment and you review. While you are reviewing, reading it again, you may see some spelling errors, or you may see some grammatical problems, or you may see some areas that you miss. What you need to do, you have to rewrite it back correctly. So that's the purpose of project monitoring. You see problems, then you correct those problems so that the project target can match with the outcome, right? So, but most of the cases also there are other external factors that are outside the project that may hinder the development of the project. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you so much for Mr. Fidelino. Mr. Cherno, one more question for the same person, Daniel Simo, what you can answer. And after is agriculture in Gambia is the same with Indonesia? Can you explain a little about that?
Can you go back to the question, please?
Oh, is the agriculture between Gambia and Asia is same or different? Maybe you can explain a little about that. And
Okay.
also the question from Mr. Ang is Mindarto. Yeah, okay. Introduce my name is Ana, an agricultural. The question is, does Zambia have agriculture extension workers and they also carry out agriculture monitoring.
Okay, good. If I get the last question well, it means in the Gambia where the agriculture extension workers are different from project monitoring officers. Okay, good, thank you. So is whether agriculture in the Gambia is same as that of the Indonesia. As I said earlier, they are very similar, right? Because in the Gambia also, the agricultural produce doesn't meet the demand of the population. So in most cases, we import. Previous literature revealed that Gambia import 50% of our annual consumption. That if we are to consume 100% in every year, it means 50% is being imported and the other 50% is being produced locally. So one variation, like one differences that I have seen between the agricultural sector in the Gambia and that of Indonesia is when it comes to value addition. Like in Indonesia, they have this advantage of adding values to agricultural products. Like if you go to the, Indomart, you will see so many products, they are agricultural products and they are value added. Okay, like for example, if you go to the shop, you can have what we call banana chips. You can have mango chips, etc. But if you go to the Gambia, you will realize that the value addition is not very common. What happens, it is only those that have been processed in the West and been imported in the Gambia. So you can have mango only during mango season, banana only during banana season. After the season is over, you cannot have it again, unlike Indonesia. So that is a key difference between Gambia and Indonesian agriculture. But aside from that, they are almost the same. Now, coming to the other question, whether agricultural extension workers are same as monitoring officers. Yes, they can be, and no, they cannot be. So why yes, they can be? Because every projects have a target. Let's assume if the project is on horticulture, all right, all those extension workers on the horticultural unit who are at the project intervention area, they are posted at the project intervention area, they become part of the project staff as monitoring and evaluation officers. Because what happened, they are at the project intervention area, so the project will train them on the project monitoring and evaluation tool, so they will serve as project monitoring and evaluation officers for that particular project, alongside being extension workers, right? But some projects, they do hire their own staffs, train them on the role of MNE, at the end of the day, post them to those particular intervention sites. Like one of the criteria to be an MNE officer in most of the projects is you have to have basic knowledge of agricultural economics, because basic knowledge of agricultural economics is key, or basic knowledge of social science, like for example, development studies, those are also key in being an agricultural monitoring officer. So most of the cases, these two are interlinked. In some projects, the extension workers can serve as the monitoring officers after being trained. But in some projects, the extension workers cannot serve as monitoring officers, depending on what the project want to attain, what the target of the project.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer, Mr. Cherno. And untuk Malang sudah dijawab. Kita adalah kita untuk buat training development di para pekerja extension, khususnya dalam bidang pertanian dasar atau basic pertanian, tapi juga bergantung pada project. Jadi we need to make development program for extension work especially in basic of agriculture, depend on project. Okay, thank you so much for your questions, all of the questioners. Okay, I'm still opening one more question. If you want your question, you raise your hand and you can fill on the chat layer. Okay. Mr. Cherno, in order to wait the hour, you read the presentation maybe in short yeah. Okay.
I don't get you. Come again.
Maybe before the last question, you can explain your conclusion about presentation. You can explain about your conclusion. Okay, in short sentences.
Okay. Thank you very much for that opportunity. So, in conclusion, as I said, monitoring and evaluation is very key in a success and the life cycle of a project, especially at the formulation stage, but it is more important at the implementation stage of the project because it helps to monitor the progress of that particular project and always revisit what is needful and what is missing in that particular project, and always help to fix the gap in that particular project. And it also help to involve the stakeholders in that particular project. It also help to give feedbacks to the donors who are implementing that project. Aside from that, it helps to collect reliable data that can be used by policy formulators in government in order to formulate strategic policies that will help address the community needs and desires. So those are some of the roles that MNE play in a project monitoring. So without MNE, a project cannot be fully implemented. And without MNE, serious donors will not come in support of a project because it is a very important document that helps give all the activities and the requisite of a particular project. And to make it short, MNE does not only means that a project that has to be implemented by government or NGOs require MNE. Even a project that is going to be implemented by a particular student. Let's assume that you are a student. After completing your course, you go back to a particular community, or you go back, you want to invest into, let's assume, poultry production as a project, So at the beginning, you may have only one place, but as time goes on, you may have different locations of your poultry. So you need an M&E system for yourself so that you'll be able to guide, because you have target. Maybe when you are establishing that business, you will say, in the next 5 years, I want to be among the best poultry producers in Indonesia. That's the target. That's your project goal as an individual project. So what are you going to do? What are some of the steps that you are going to take to see that that particular project, that particular goal, you are going to achieve it in the next 5 years? That's M&E, right? So you need that. At a certain point, after 1 year, let's assume that after 1 year, you need to come and evaluate yourself. Yeah, I have gone 1 year into this business. Have I achieved at least 10%? Have I achieved at least 20% of my goal? Will I be able to achieve my goal in the next 5 years? You can ask yourself that question, and you will be able to understand whether you are achieving or not. So if you are not achieving what you want to achieve, you still have the right to ask yourself, what is the problem? Where have I gone wrong? Then you will know the problem. So what am I going to do? That's the solution. Then you will know the solution. And if you implement that particular solution, then you will be able to achieve your goal within those 5 years. But if you don't have this plan in place, you don't have a goal, you are just busy operating like that, you don't have a target, you don't have a goal, at the end of the day, it will be very difficult for you to measure your success or your failure at the end of your project. So the cost also is important. You will be able to know, okay, I need to go into poultry farming. Maybe I need 10 million rupees because you have already done your budgeting and costing, right? So I need 10 million rupees because I need to buy this, I need to buy that, I need to buy that. So it always guides you, okay? And it always helps you to put your resources into the most desirable outcomes. So it doesn't only be at a government level or at institutional level that you can implement a project, and even personal level, you can implement a project. I believe that is all I have to share. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present on this particular material. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Cherno, for the presentation. Terima kasih kepada Mr. Cherno atas presentasinya. For the audience, so we can continue the last session. Before closing, you can switch on your camera because we will take a photo together. Oke, kepada rekan-rekan peserta bisa menghidupkan kameranya karena kita ada sesi foto bersama. Jadi bagi yang berkenan, silakan please switch on your camera of you. But if you don't want to switch on, no problem. Jadi switch on nggak apa-apa, nggak mau nyalain kamera nggak apa-apa. Oke, biar nggak bingung video dari sini nggak apa-apa. Oke, untuk sesi pertama satu, ya nyalakan kameranya ya. Oke, switch on your camera ya. 1, 2, 3, ya bentar. Jangan ditutup dulu. Oke. Kemudian untuk layar yang kedua, 2 layar aja sih ya. 1 kali foto lagi ya. 1, 2, 3. Oke, once more. Oke, Mr. Cherno, thank you so much for your participation, and we would like to say thank you very much to all the audience from the Unitary and also the other university that we also get from the data that participant is also coming from the other university. Thank you so much, Mr. Cherno, and see you in Unitary. And terima kasih teman-teman, rekan-rekan semua yang sudah hadir. Makasih banget yang sudah turut untuk bergabung. Oke, may Allah and may God always bless you all. Ya, semoga Tuhan yang Maha Esa memberikan keberkahan kepada hidup rekan-rekan semua, rezeki teman-teman, usia teman-teman, dan ilmu yang berkah dari Tuhan yang Maha Kuasa. Oke, there is one wise word from the West that I want to explain for you all. Like this, that everything that we do in our life goes and echoes to the eternity. Apapun kebaikan yang kita lakukan sepanjang hidup akan bergema di keabadian. Everything that goodness that you do in your life will echoes in eternity. Okay, saya Dito Aditya. My name is Dito Aditya. Thank you so much for the participation. See you in the next schedule of HIMPAS. Oke.
Salam sukses selalu.
Oke, terima kasih, Bung. Oke, terima kasih. Oh ya, sertifikatnya nanti akan dibagikan oleh teman-teman mungkin 1 atau 3 hari ke depan seperti yang sebelumnya, acara sebelumnya. Oke, pekan depan kita akan ada acara pelatihan TOEFL bahasa Inggris gratis. Persiapan TOEFL teman-teman kan nanti ada TOEFL ya, nanti ada TPA juga, tapi HIMPAS akan memberikan sebuah ya semacam pelatihan atau diskusi tentang persiapan TOEFL, TOEFL paper based test ya, PBT, TOEFL yang bukan IBT ya, TOEFL PBT yang dipakai oleh kampus. Teman-teman bisa join secara gratis, tanggal akan kami infokan kemudian. Pemateri nanti dari Universitas Lampung, insya Allah beliau adalah dosen pendidikan bahasa Inggris. Jadi teman-teman nanti bisa join mungkin di akhir pekan di jam yang sama, di jam 8 waktu Indonesia Barat. Makasih. Oke, terima kasih. Selamat malam, selamat beristirahat. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Malam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.